You are not late. You are not broken. You are not lost. Every breath you take in the unknown, every step you walk without a map, every soft choice to stay open, is a sacred act of becoming. You are living, growing, becoming whole, even now. Trust the stillness. Honor the unfolding. Come home to yourself. 1. The stillness before the bloom. Before anything blooms, there is silence. Before the breakthrough, there is stillness. In this quiet, your roots are growing stronger than you can see. There is a space between dreams where nothing seems to move, a quiet pocket of time where the world outside keeps spinning, but your soul feels strangely still. It's not sadness exactly, and not quite hope either. It is something quieter, something harder to name, a season of waiting without knowing what you're waiting for, a season of growing without visible signs of growth. In that space, your mind tries to rebel, demanding answers, demanding certainty, demanding a clear next step. You find yourself pacing the same corridors of thought, retracing the same tired questions. When will it happen? When will I arrive? When will the next dream open its door to me? But life, in its infinite wisdom, refuses to answer. It folds you into this silence, not as a punishment, but as a mercy. Because sometimes, what you need is not another door flung wide open. Sometimes what you need is to stay still long enough to realize you already carry the keys. The time between dreams is a sacred time, though it rarely feels that way when you are in it. It feels like drifting. It feels like being overlooked, forgotten, left behind while others race ahead. It feels like all your striving has come to nothing. It feels like you are suspended between worlds, no longer belonging to the past you've outgrown, and not yet embraced by the future you can barely glimpse. And yet, it is here, in this in-between, that you're invited to become. Not to chase, not to strive, not to perform, but simply to be, to breathe, to soften, to listen. At first, the listening feels unbearable. There is too much noise inside you: regrets, fears, expectations, comparisons. Your mind throws tantrums. Your heart aches with old disappointments. Your body buzzes with the impatience of a life conditioned to speed. But if you stay long enough, if you surrender to the slowness instead of fighting it, something miraculous begins to happen. You start to hear another voice underneath the noise, one that is not panicked, not desperate, not striving for anything. It is steady. It is ancient. It is yours. It speaks in a language older than ambition. It speaks in the rhythms of breath and tides and stars. It says, you are already enough. It says, you are not late. It says, becoming is not a race. It says, rest here, trust here, grow here. You are being prepared for a life that your old self cannot yet imagine. You are being stretched into spaces that your old fears could never fill. You are shedding skins that no longer fit the shape of who you are becoming. It hurts. It confuses. It liberates. You are not failing because your life doesn't look the way you thought it would by now. You are unfolding, layer by layer, season by season, breath by breath. You are not lost. You are simply in the space between. The sacred, hidden, often brutal space where true becoming happens. No one applauds you for this kind of work. No one sees it. No one writes songs about the days you simply stayed alive, stayed soft, stayed open when it would have been easier to harden. But make no mistake, this is the work that matters most. To sit with your unanswered questions without rushing to fill them. To love yourself through the not yet, and the almost and the maybe. To trust that there is wisdom in the waiting, even when you can't see it. To choose presence over panic. To believe that something beautiful is being woven in the unseen places of your life. It is not wasted time. It is sacred time. It is the soil out of which your next becoming will bloom. And even now, when nothing seems to be happening, when the days blur into each other, when you feel like you're standing still while the world surges forward, even now, seeds are splitting underground. Roots are growing deeper. Foundations are being laid. You are not behind. You are becoming. Quietly, courageously, beautifully. You are learning how to live not by the metrics of speed and success, but by the slower, deeper rhythms of truth and trust. You are learning how to be rooted even when you are not blooming, how to be present even when you are not seen, how to be enough even when you are not achieving. This is not the death of your dreams. This is their deepening, their refining, their anchoring. Because dreams birthed in stillness are stronger than dreams snatched in haste. Because dreams that grow in silence have roots that reach down into the marrow of your becoming. You do not need to have all the answers right now. You do not need to map out every step. You do not need to perform your progress for anyone else's comfort. You are allowed to be here, in this messy, tender, and comfortable space between what was and what will be. You are allowed to linger, to breathe, to trust. You are allowed to grieve what you thought would happen by now. You are allowed to rest in the knowing that just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. You are allowed to believe that unseen growth is still growth, that invisible becoming is still becoming, that slow progress is still progress. You are allowed to live in the questions without demanding immediate answers. You are allowed to find peace not in arrival, but in presence. You are allowed to love yourself right here, exactly as you are, without conditions, without deadlines, without needing to earn your own tenderness. And when the next dream comes, because you will meet it not from a place of frantic grasping, but from a place of grounded grace. You will meet it as someone who knows how to hold wonder without crushing it, who knows how to walk through thresholds without losing themselves. You will meet it with open hands, with steady breath, with a heart that remembers the sacredness of the in-between. Because you lived it, you stayed, you listened, you became. 2. Listening to the quiet call within. Beneath the noise, a softer voice calls. Not demanding, not rushing, just inviting. Will you listen to your own soul's whisper? Somewhere along the way, you stop seeing the stillness as a punishment and start seeing it as a gift. Not a flashy gift wrapped in shiny paper, not the kind of gift the world teaches you to crave, but a quieter offering, a deeper invitation. The gift of meeting yourself without distraction. The gift of knowing your own company without apology. The gift of hearing your heart whisper when everything else grows silent. At first, it feels uncomfortable, even unbearable. You are so used to the noise, the rush, the endless movement. Stillness exposes the places inside you that you have carefully avoided. It surfaces old wounds you thought you had outrun. It peels back the layers of busy and ambition and striving until only your tender, pulsing humanness remains. And it asks you to stay, not to fix, not to flee, simply to stay, to sit in the hollow spaces without rushing to fill them, to feel the ache without numbing it, to face the questions without demanding quick resolutions. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you grow. Not upward, not outward, but inward, downward, deeper, like roots threading into unseen soil, like water carving canyons through silent stone, like stars forming quietly in the vast darkness. You grow in ways the world cannot measure, cannot market, cannot monetize. You grow in ways that matter. You learn how to be tender with yourself when the dreams don't arrive on schedule. You learn how to hold your own hand when the future feels uncertain. You learn how to speak gently to the parts of you that still believe worthiness must be earned. You learn how to live in ambiguity without making it mean that you are failing. And somewhere in that quiet growing, you begin to glimpse a new kind of strength, not the brittle kind that depends on circumstances, but the supple, resilient kind that bends and breathes and endures. The kind that does not shatter when plans fall apart. The kind that does not wither when recognition is withheld. The kind that does not vanish when you are unseen. Because now you know, your worth is not dependent on visibility. Your value is not tied to outcomes. Your life is not measured by speed. You exist, and that is enough. You breathe, and that is sacred. You love, and that is everything. In the time between dreams, you begin to rewire the way you move through the world. You no longer rush to fill empty spaces. You no longer panic when the next step is unclear. You no longer sacrifice your peace at the altar of productivity. Instead, you move with presence. You choose with intention. You trust that the life meant for you is not something you must wrestle into being, but something that will meet you when you are ready to receive it. You start noticing small things you once missed. The way morning light spills across the floor, the quiet kindness in a stranger's eyes, the sacred hum of your own heartbeat steady and sure against the world's chaos. You realize that these are not small things after all. They are everything. They are the texture of a life well lived. They are the roots of a joy that is not dependent on circumstances. They are the evidence that even in the waiting, even in the uncertainty, even in the in-between life is here, whispering, singing, beckoning you deeper. And you answer, not with grand gestures, not with perfect certainty, but with small daily acts of devotion, breathing deeply when anxiety wants to rush you, speaking gently when fear wants to harden you, resting when shame tells you to keep earning your worth, staying open when disappointment tempts you to close. You answer by showing up for yourself, for your life, for the present moment, even when it's messy, even when it's unfinished, even when it's quieter than you expected, especially then, because you understand now, the real work is not in controlling outcomes. It's in cultivating the soil of your soul, so that whatever blooms next, whatever dreams take root, they are growing in a ground made rich by presence, by patience, by love. And perhaps somewhere down the line, you will look back and realize it was never about reaching some glittering destination. It was never about achieving enough to finally be worthy. It was always about this learning, this becoming, this remembering that you are already whole, that you are already enough, that your life, even in the pauses, even in the waiting, even in the long, slow unfolding, is profoundly, achingly beautiful, that you are not behind, you are not lost, you are not failing, you are simply living, deeply, courageously, quietly, becoming. Softening into trust. Trust is not forged in certainty. It is born in the moments you surrender, when you let go of needing to know and simply allow yourself to be held. Somewhere deeper still, beneath the stillness and the waiting, another truth begins to surface. You're not who you were when you first entered this season. You have changed, not because you chased transformation, but because you surrendered to it. You allowed life to shape you in the unseen spaces. You stayed present when it would have been easier to run. You chose tenderness when bitterness would have been understandable. You said yes to the slow, unglamorous work of becoming. And in doing so, you became someone else, not someone artificial, not someone created out of fear or striving, but someone truer, someone more rooted in the quiet reality of being. You stopped measuring your worth by external markers. You started measuring it by your ability to stay soft in a hard world, to stay open in a closing world, to stay true in a world obsessed with appearances. And in that, you grew stronger, a strength not easily seen but deeply felt, a strength not made for the spotlight, but made for the soul. You began to realize that resilience is not toughness, not a calloused heart, not relentless grinding. Resilience is softness without surrendering your integrity. It is hope without naive expectation. It is choosing to stand open-handed in a world that wants you to clench your fists. You have learned the art of waiting without losing yourself. You have learned the art of trusting without knowing the outcome. You have learned the art of being at home in your own presence, of sitting with your own soul and finding it good, finding it enough. And maybe that is the greatest becoming of all. Because in a world that teaches you to constantly chase, to constantly do, to constantly upgrade, it is a radical act of courage to simply say, "Here I am, as I am," without rushing to be more, without apologizing for not being further, without shrinking because someone else told you you were too much or not enough. Here you are, fully alive, fully present, fully yours. No longer living on borrowed time, no longer chasing borrowed dreams, no longer measuring your life by how closely it matches someone else's highlight reel. You are living in the rich, fertile soil of your own authenticity. And that is enough. That is more than enough. You start to realize that the dreams you once held with such urgency now feel different. Softer, wiser, less like demands and more like invitations. They no longer come from a place of lack, from a belief that you must achieve to be worthy. They come from a place of wholeness, from a desire to create and contribute and dance with life because you can, not because you must. You no longer chase dreams to complete yourself. You allow dreams to arise from the fullness of who you already are. And because of that, your dreams are richer, deeper, more aligned. They are not frantic grasps at validation. They are sacred extensions of your becoming. And you hold them differently now. You hold them lightly, tenderly, with open palms. You no longer clutch at them with desperation. You no longer demand that they arrive on your timeline. You trust the seasons. You trust the unfolding. You trust that what is meant for you will come, not through striving, but through a kind of gravitational pull, a natural convergence of who you are and what is meant to meet you. This trust changes everything. It frees you. It frees you from the tyranny of urgency. It frees you from the illusion that you must force life to love you. It frees you to actually enjoy your life, not as a series of tasks to complete, but as a sacred dance of presence and possibility. You wake up each day not with a checklist of how to earn your place in the world, but with a quiet curiosity. What beauty might I witness today? What love might I give today? What peace might I cultivate within myself today? And in that way, you live. Fully, truly, deeply. Not because you have reached some final destination, but because you have learned that the real destination was never out there. It was always here, within, waiting for you to remember, waiting for you to return. The hidden architecture of growth. True growth does not shout. It unfolds quietly, invisibly, laying foundations you'll stand on for the rest of your life. There is something sacred about the life you build when no one is watching. Something unshakable about the roots you grow in silence. In the time between dreams, when external affirmations are scarce and visible progress feels elusive, you discover that your truest foundation is not built on applause or achievement. It is built on small, almost invisible choices: the choice to stay soft when life hardens you, the choice to stay hopeful when cynicism tempts you, the choice to believe in beauty when all you can see is barren ground. These choices are not dramatic. They rarely feel triumphant. but they are the quiet architecture of a resilient soul. And because no one sees them, you learn to validate yourself. You learn to celebrate small acts of courage, getting out of bed when despair whispers otherwise, speaking your truth when silence feels safer, choosing kindness toward yourself when your mind is shouting criticisms. You realize that these are not small things at all. They are the bravest acts. They are the slow stitching together of a life that is real and lasting and your own. You begin to honor your own pace. You stop measuring your life against arbitrary timelines. You stop punishing yourself for not meeting invisible deadlines. You realize that growth is not a straight line, not a competition, not a race. It is a spiral. It is a dance. It is a rhythm that does not rush to please outside expectations. In the quiet, you redefine success. Success becomes something internal, the ability to meet yourself with honesty, the ability to stay kind to yourself in the middle of your mess, the ability to stay committed to your inner truth even when no external reward is guaranteed. You realize that arriving was never the goal. Living was. Loving was. Showing up, imperfectly, but wholeheartedly was. You begin to live from a different place now, not from scarcity, but from abundance. Not from fear, but from trust. Not from frantic urgency, but from grounded presence. You no longer cling to dreams as lifeboats. You no longer use goals as proof of your worthiness. You know you are worthy even in the waiting, even in the unknowing, even in the spaces where nothing tangible seems to be happening. And because of that knowing, you move differently. You make decisions based not on fear of missing out, but on love for what is true. You walk away from what no longer aligns without bitterness. You walk toward what calls to your soul without apology. You let life unfold without trying to manhandle it into your limited ideas of how it should look. You trust the process, not because you are naive, but because you have lived enough, waited enough, stayed enough to know that life has rhythms deeper than your fears, wiser than your timelines. You are no longer clinging to the edge of becoming. You are inside it, living it, breathing it, embodying it. You are not waiting for life to happen. You are happening to life. You are no longer a passive observer of your own unfolding. You are an active participant, a conscious co-creator, a sacred witness to the miracle of your own becoming. And it is miraculous, even if no one else sees it, even if it happens in rooms where no one claps, even if it unfolds so quietly that even you forget sometimes just how far you've come. You have come far, not because you raced ahead, not because you conquered mountains, but because you stayed. You stayed when it was lonely. You stayed when it was confusing. You stayed when it was tempting to numb or quit or run. You stayed, and in staying, you grew roots deep enough to hold you through any storm, deep enough to nourish the next dreams that will bloom from your becoming, deep enough to carry you not just to the next season, but through it with grace, with courage, with the quiet strength of someone who knows, I am already enough. I am already home. Returning to the rhythm of becoming. Life has always known your pace. Becoming is not a race to be won, but a rhythm to be remembered, one quiet step at a time. There is a tenderness that grows in the spaces you once tried to avoid, a gentleness that emerges in the places you once tried to fix. In the time between dreams, you begin to see yourself differently, not as a project to be completed, but as a living, breathing miracle unfolding at its own sacred pace. You no longer carry the urgency to hurry your healing. You no longer measure your progress by how quickly you move from one milestone to the next. You understand now that healing is not linear. It is cyclical. It is layered. It is a spiral dance between remembering and forgetting, between hurting and healing, between falling apart and coming back together in a deeper, truer form. You begin to trust the seasons within you, the winters of stillness, the springs of becoming, the summers of flourishing, the autumns of letting go. You no longer fight the ebb and flow. You move with it. You surrender to it. You learn to dance with the rhythms of your own becoming, even when they do not match the world's expectations. And as you do, you find a different kind of peace. Not the peace of everything going your way, not the peace of circumstances aligning perfectly, but the peace of alignment within yourself. The peace of knowing who you are beyond what you do. The peace of knowing your worth is not fragile, not conditional, not dependent on what you produce or how you perform. You find the peace that comes from belonging to yourself. Fully, freely, fiercely. You find the kind of peace that cannot be taken from you because it is rooted deeper than any external circumstance, deeper than any changing season. It is rooted in truth, and that truth is simple and stunning and powerful beyond measure. You are enough. You always were. You always will be. Not because you are perfect, not because you have arrived, but because you exist, because you breathe, because you love, because you are. And from that place of knowing, everything changes. Your dreams change. They become less about achievement and more about expression. They become less about proving and more about living. They become less about filling a void and more about offering your overflow. Your relationships change. You no longer chase connection that asks you to abandon yourself. You no longer settle for spaces where you must shrink to fit. You surround yourself with those who see you, honor you, nourish the truth in you. And when loneliness visits, because it still will, you do not see it as a flaw. You see it as a call to come home to yourself again. Your relationship with yourself changes most of all. You speak to yourself with kindness you once reserved only for others. You hold yourself with compassion you once thought you had to earn. You listen to your needs without shame. You honor your boundaries without guilt. You forgive your stumbles without withdrawing your love. You become the safe place you have always longed for, the home you thought you had to find somewhere outside of you. You realize you were the home all along. And in that realization, you are free. Free to dream again, but differently. Free to hope again, but wisely. Free to live again, but gently, joyfully, rooted in truth rather than driven by fear. Free to become, not because you must fix yourself, but because you are growing into the fullness of what you already are. You are no longer waiting for permission to live. You are no longer waiting for the perfect moment to begin. You are living now, here, in the time between dreams. And you realize, perhaps for the first time, that this space is not empty. It is rich. It is fertile. It is holy. It is exactly where you are meant to be. The sacred art of letting go. Not everything you lose is a loss. Some things fall away so you can finally hold what truly belongs to you. You start to understand that the most profound transformations often happen invisibly. They do not announce themselves with fireworks or grand epiphanies. They unfold quietly in the small, sacred spaces of daily life. In the way you catch yourself being kinder to yourself than you used to be. In the way you choose rest over relentless striving. In the way you say no without needing to explain. In the way you let yourself hope again, even when hope feels fragile. These are not the transformations the world celebrates, but they are the transformations that change your life from the inside out. They are the slow revolutions that rebuild your foundation on something deeper than achievement, deeper than approval, deeper than fear. You realize that becoming is not about adding more layers, more titles, more accolades. Becoming is often about shedding. shedding the need to be impressive, shedding the stories that told you you had to earn love, shedding the belief that your worth is conditional, shedding the old skins that no longer fit the fullness of who you are. You shed and you shed until what is left is something stunning in its simplicity, your bare, beating heart, your true self, uncloaked, unmasked, unafraid. And you realize that this self, the one that was always underneath all the striving and hiding, is enough. More than enough. This self is radiant, not because it is perfect, but because it is real. And from this place of realness, everything begins to align differently. You are no longer magnetized to what depletes you. You are no longer attracted to spaces that require you to abandon yourself. You are drawn instead to what nourishes your soul, to what honors your becoming, to what mirrors back your own sacredness without trying to mold you into something else. You start to build a life that feels like a soft exhale rather than a constant climb. A life that feels like coming home rather than chasing a finish line. A life that honors the slow, beautiful unfolding of your truest self. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens choice by choice, breath by breath, moment by moment. It happens in the way you stay soft when life gets hard. It happens in the way you choose hope, even after heartbreak. It happens in the way you hold space for your own messy, glorious humanity. And slowly, steadily, almost imperceptibly, you realize you trust yourself now. You trust your no as much as your yes. You trust your endings as much as your beginnings. You trust the wisdom of your own body, the intuition of your own soul. You are no longer at war with yourself. You are no longer negotiating your own belonging. You have laid down your weapons. You have come home. And in this home, there is room for all of you, the parts that are blooming and the parts that are still tender, the parts that are certain and the parts that are still searching. All of you is welcome here. All of you is worthy here. All of you is necessary here. You realize that the time between dreams was never a waiting room. It was a sacred workshop, a holy unfolding, a quiet preparation for the life your soul was always meant to live. And you are living it. Not someday. Not when you achieve enough or heal enough or become impressive enough. But now, in the quiet, in the questions, in the sacred ordinary moments of your becoming. You are not behind. You are right on time. You are not failing. You are unfolding. You are not lost. You are living. Carrying dreams with open hands. Dreams are not meant to be gripped with fear. They are meant to be held lightly, like seeds trusting the wind to carry them home. You no longer see patience as passivity. You no longer equate stillness with stagnation. You understand now that patience is an act of fierce trust, a radical form of strength. It is choosing to stay rooted even when there are no blossoms yet. It is choosing to water the seeds even when you cannot yet see the garden. It is choosing to live fully even when the future remains unseen. And that choice, made quietly, made daily, reshapes you. It rewires the anxious patterns that once convinced you that if you are not rushing, you are falling behind. It soothes the urgency that once told you that your worth was measured by your output. It teaches you a deeper rhythm, the rhythm of becoming, the rhythm of trust. You start to live less from reaction and more from response. You stop chasing every shiny thing that promises instant gratification. You listen instead for the quieter call of what is truly yours. You start to understand that not everything is meant for you, and that is not a loss but a liberation. You do not have to hold every dream. You do not have to say yes to every invitation. You are allowed to be discerning. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to choose what feels aligned with your soul's unfolding, even if others don't understand. And that, too, is a kind of coming home, a homecoming to your own deepest knowing. You are no longer a stranger to yourself. You are no longer standing outside your own life, waiting to be invited in. You have taken your place. You have claimed your space. And you move through the world differently now, not with arrogance, but with quiet assurance. Not seeking validation, but offering presence. Not hustling for worth, but embodying it. You realize that the people and places meant for you will meet you in that space of truth. They will not ask you to contort yourself. They will not require you to diminish your light. They will celebrate your fullness because they are walking their own path of fullness too. And the ones who do not, you release them without bitterness, without apology, without needing to make them wrong. You release them with gratitude for the lessons they brought, for the clarity they offered, for the way they helped refine your becoming. In this way, you live lighter. You love cleaner. You move freer. You realize that not everything you lose is a loss. Some things are sacred surrenders. Some things are necessary clearings. Some things are the pruning that makes way for new life. And you trust this now. You trust the letting go as much as you trust the gathering. You trust the emptiness as much as you trust the fullness. You trust the silences as much as you trust the songs. Because you know that life moves in seasons, and so do you. You no longer demand perpetual harvests from yourself. You honor the winters of your soul. You honor the seasons when the work is invisible, when the growth is underground, when the beauty is still in seed form. You honor the full cycle, not just the blooms but the barrenness, not just the celebrations but the stillness. And in that honoring, you find a deeper reverence for your own humanity. You are not a machine. You are not a checklist. You are not a performance. You are a living, breathing, evolving soul. And every phase of your becoming is worthy of love. Living from overflow, not emptiness. When you live from overflow, love is no longer a transaction. It becomes a gift, given freely without depletion. You begin to understand that life is not something you master, but something you meet. You meet it breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by sacred moment. You no longer see discomfort as a sign that you are failing. You see it as an invitation to deepen, to listen, to grow beyond your old limits. You welcome the stretching even when it stings because you trust what it is making room for. You start to honor the detours as much as the destinations. You trust that sometimes the path wins not because you are lost, but because there are things your soul needed to find along the way. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this growing in me?" And every time you ask that, you find yourself less afraid of the unknown. You find yourself more willing to sit with uncertainty without rushing to control it. You realize that uncertainty is not the enemy. It is the environment where possibility breathes. You realize that not knowing is not a failure, but a fertile space where wonder can take root. You become less obsessed with predicting the future and more committed to living the present. You wake up each day with fewer demands and more devotion. You do not demand that life fit your plans. You devote yourself to being fully present with what life offers. You do not demand constant validation. You devote yourself to being your own steady source of love and truth. You do not demand that healing be linear. You devote yourself to meeting yourself with compassion on every step of the spiral path. And as you live this way, a quiet joy begins to take root, not the brittle joy that depends on everything going right, but the resilient joy that knows how to hold sorrow and beauty in the same breath. A joy that does not deny pain, but dances with it, that does not erase loss, but finds meaning within it. A joy that comes not from having all the answers, but from learning to live the questions with grace. You realize that you are no longer surviving your life. You are inhabiting it. You are no longer bracing yourself against every wave. You are learning to ride them. You are no longer treating your soul as a project. You are tending to it as a garden, patiently, lovingly, reverently. You start to notice the small ways life loves you back. The way sunlight warms your face on a cold morning. The way a stranger's smile lingers just a second longer. The way your own laughter surprises you when you thought you had forgotten how. The way quiet moments hold a depth you once rushed past. You see beauty not as something you must earn, but as something woven into the fabric of your existence. You understand that you do not have to be extraordinary to be worthy of love, of joy, of belonging. You understand that your very being is a quiet miracle, a daily unfolding of wonder. And from this place, you live differently. You love differently. You dream differently. You live not from a hunger to prove, but from a fullness to share. You love not from fear of losing, but from the freedom of simply giving. You dream not from a place of lack, but from a wellspring of abundance. You realize that even in the time between dreams, even in the slow, sacred unfolding of becoming, your life is already brimming with meaning, with magic, with light. You are not waiting for your life to begin. You are living it now. Breathing into the joy of now. Joy is not somewhere else. It is hidden here, in this breath, in this imperfect, miraculous moment you are living right now. You start to realize that fulfillment does not arrive wrapped in a grand revelation. It creeps into your life quietly, disguised as ordinary days that no longer ache with longing. It moves through you in small, unnoticed ways. The steady breath before you open your eyes in the morning, the way you sip your coffee slowly without rushing to the next thing, the easy smile that rises when you realize you are content without needing anything to change. You realize that arrival was never a single point you could reach and hold on to. It is a way of being, a way of moving through life that is less about conquering and more about communing, less about controlling and more about co-creating, less about demanding and more about dancing with what is. You see that your life is not something happening to you. It is something happening through you, with you, as you. And in that realization, you soften even more. You allow. You surrender. You participate. You dance with life, not as a frantic partner trying to lead, but as a willing partner flowing with the music. You understand now that the dreams that are truly meant for you will not require you to abandon yourself to reach them. They will not require you to hustle your soul into exhaustion. They will not ask you to trade your peace for achievement. They will rise to meet you on the path you are already walking when you walk it with truth, with presence, with love. And so you walk, step by step, breath by breath. You live each day not in frantic pursuit, but in faithful presence. You treat your mornings as invitations, not obligations. You treat your work as offerings, not performances. You treat your relationships as gardens, not trophies. You live not to impress, but to express. You move not to escape, but to experience. You speak not to fill the silence, but to share your song. And when fear visits, because it still does, you no longer see it as a stop sign. You see it as a companion, a reminder that you are walking toward something that matters. You greet fear with kindness. You do not let it drive, but you do not exile it either. You make room for your full humanity, for the whole messy, marvelous reality of being alive. And in that making room, you find more space for joy. Joy not dependent on circumstances, but woven into the fabric of your being. Joy not waiting at the finish line, but living in the steps themselves. You find joy in the simple act of showing up, in breathing deeply, in loving fiercely, in choosing hope again and again, even when it would be easier to shut down. You find joy in your own aliveness, in your own becoming, in the sacred, unfinished, beautiful story you're still writing with every choice, every breath, every day. And perhaps, most tenderly of all, you realize that even in the times you thought you were standing still, even in the seasons that felt barren and broken, you were growing. You were becoming. You were building a life rooted not in circumstances, but in soul. And that life, the one you are living right now, is more precious, more profound, more miraculous than anything you could have scripted. It is yours. Entirely, exquisitely yours. Homecoming, becoming who you always were. You were never meant to chase yourself. You were always meant to return, gently, quietly, lovingly, to the truth that was always inside you. And so you live, not waiting for a perfect day to begin, not postponing your joy for some future milestone. You live now in this imperfect, beautiful, unfolding moment. You carry your dreams lightly, like seeds in your pocket, knowing that some will take root and others will be carried by the wind to places you may never see. You trust that what is meant for you will find its way, not because you force it, but because you are aligned with it. You know that becoming is not a race. It is a rhythm. It is not a performance. It is a practice. It is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering who you are beneath all the noise, all the fear, all the striving. And in remembering, you return to yourself. Again and again, tenderly, courageously, joyfully. You are no longer afraid of the spaces between dreams. You know now that they are not empty. They are sacred. They are where the deepest growth happens, the kind that cannot always be measured, the kind that transforms you in ways the world may never applaud, but your soul will always recognize. You honor the slow unfolding. You honor the unseen roots. You honor the seasons of rest as much as the seasons of bloom. And when the new dreams come, because they will, you greet them not as desperate needs to complete you, but as joyful companions on a journey you are already living in fullness. You create from abundance, not lack. You love from overflow, not emptiness. You move through life not as someone trying to be enough, but as someone who knows they already are. And because of that, you live differently. You savor the sunsets without needing to capture them. You listen to your loved ones without planning your next words. You laugh without self-consciousness. You cry without shame. You hope without armor. You trust without guarantees. You walk into each new day not with a clenched fist, but with an open heart. And when the inevitable challenges come, because they will, you do not see them as failures. You see them as part of the dance. You do not make them mean that you are unworthy or that your becoming has been derailed. You recognize them as invitations to deepen, to trust, to return again and again to the quiet strength within you. And you do. Again and again. You return to yourself. You choose yourself. You stay with yourself. Through the seasons of blooming and the seasons of bare branches. Through the nights of doubt and the mornings of hope. Through the endings that break your heart open and the beginnings that take your breath away. You stay. You stay rooted in your own enoughness. You stay connected to the quiet wisdom that has always been guiding you. You stay faithful to the sacred unfolding of your one precious life. And in doing so, you live a life that is not just successful by external standards, but meaningful by the only standard that truly matters. It is true to you. It is shaped by your deepest values, your wildest hopes, your most tender dreams. It is textured with love, rich with presence, alive with wonder. It is not perfect, and it is not always easy, but it is real, and it is yours. Entirely, beautifully, unapologetically yours. So breathe deep. Trust the path. Honor the pauses. Celebrate the small victories. Love your own messy, magnificent humanity. And remember, always, you're not late. You're not broken. You're not lost. You are becoming. You are unfolding. You are living. You are home. You're not late. You're not broken. You're not lost. Every breath you take in the unknown, every step you walk without a map, every soft choice to stay open, is a sacred act of becoming. You are living, growing, becoming whole, even now. Trust the stillness. Honor the unfolding. Come home to yourself.